Do you want to learn how to tune electronic fuel injection live in person with the guys from RealTuners? We have 2-day courses in dyno shops all across the country. You can register for these at RealTuners.com and click on RealTuners Live Classes. For more information or to make a reservation, go to RealTuners.com or message us on Facebook at RealTuners LLC. Now, about those classes. When are they, you might ask? July 13th and 14th, an advanced standalone tuning class covering various ECUs at full throttle speed in Detroit, Michigan. And of course, we will be trying to schedule more classes and more dates throughout the year, so keep checking back for more info. Sometimes we have a special guest, sometimes we don't. Tonight, you're the special guest. You ask the questions, we give the answers. Anything related to these automotive obsessions of ours and how to make them go faster. And as usual, we have our normal panel of hosts. Bill Fowler of Big Hat Racing. Brian Barnhill of TunerTools.com. James Short of Shore Tuning. John Bewley of Little John's Motorsport Solutions. Mark Dalquist of Throttles Performance. Scott Clark of RealTuners.com. Scott Evans of Helix Tuning. Tom Sewell of Fuel Injector Development. Dan Parker, the movie star. He's blind in one eye and can't see out the other. And possibly a few of our previous guest hosts will pop their heads in and chat as well. And as always, thanks for tuning in. Now let's get this show on the road. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Wednesday night RealTuners Radio. Hope everybody has had a great week. We sure have. Welcome back. Let me just get things rolling right away. Let me just bring everybody on, make it easy. We got a small crew tonight, it looks like.
What's going on?
One little special visitor, it looks like.
Yeah. AJ is going to be like the star of the show tonight.
Cool.
So, what's going on? I don't know about you. I'm literally just finishing up a remote with our friends in Kansas City.
Best ever.
Yeah. So anyway, totally not prepared tonight. I mean, I take it you had to be listening last weekend. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, disconnect right now. You can always catch this crappier one later and just go back and listen to Big Chief talk about how to get his car, or basically any car that you're trying to get down a crappy street fast, crappy Mexico raceway, whatever, unprepared surfaces. Really, really cool discussion from our buddy Justin. And I had been wanting to get him on here for a long time, and I was like, I thought it was finally time. But he did not disappoint as we expected. And freaking awesome. Thank you, Mr. Shearer. That was really cool.
It was awesome that he just kept talking and dishing out info and kept talking and dishing out more info. I mean, I was just ready for him to be like, hey, I got to go, thanks. And he just kept talking. It was awesome.
Or I got an appointment, or I got something else signed up. Nope. He's all about that tuning. And he's so funny. He doesn't think he's any good at anything. But I mean, it just the more you get into and the more experience you get, probably the more you learn that you don't know, and you just got to keep at it. So and humble and don't be afraid to look like an idiot. That's good.
Things you know, things you don't know. things you don't know that you don't know.
Correct. So anyway, Pewley, what's going on, man? He's over there. No, he's not muted. All right.
No, I'm here.
He was doing invoices with Jose here a minute ago, like 3 minutes before we started.
Gotta be able to get the work in when you can get it in, right?
Yeah, I feel you. That's exactly what I had going on. I told Evans, I was like, this morning, I was like, yeah, man, I'll run the podcast from my place again tonight, which I did last weekend. And you can tell there's a signature difference. It's technically a lot better visually, probably, when Evans does it. And I'm sure it probably sounds better and everything's better. But anyway, yeah, this morning I was like, I'll run the podcast. And then by 5:30, I'm like, I still got like 3 guys to go on my remote list. For some reason this morning I posted online, I had openings for remotes today, and I think I knocked out 7 or 8. But anyway, between then and now, so it was good. Got a bunch of cars running. Figured out problems. It's good shit. Let's see. Well, we should talk about, well, hold on. First of all, let me pimp my buddies. This is a regional event near me. It's in Iowa here. And if you're from Iowa, you've known about Eddyville Raceway for decades, really. The House of Hook, the original House of Hook, where guys went. Anyways, locally, it's a really cool track for us. But this Saturday, they're doing the streetcar shootout race. It's basically geared around a DOT tire classes. $100 entry fee, winner guaranteed $1,500. DOT class needs to complete a cruise from Eddyville to RJ Performance and back. It's a 30-mile round trip, unassisted, between noon and 2 p.m., as I understand it. So class needs working headlights, taillights, proof of insurance, registration that matches the car, any size DOT tire, yada, yada. There's also some other classes out there, but there's a no cruise required class. There's a True Street 8.0 index, Fast Street 7.0 index, Super Quick 6.0, no throttle stops. He's got truck classes here, 4-cylinder and V6 car classes for the tuner classes, I guess he's calling them. These guys they're thinking sports. Hold on a second here. I'm going to mute whoever's making noise. Let's see. Oh, so they said call Kyle or email Kyle, Kyle. You know how to spell Kyle. Kyle at EddyvilleRaceway.com or manager at EddyvilleRaceway.com or call Gerald Kramer, 641-780-3354. Because I didn't see the times that this starts on their flyer, but my buddy Duke Reynolds is helping put this on. So, and that will be a good time at Eddyville. That's probably going to be hopping. That is the first order of business I had. The second order of business, I guess the class is coming up second weekend in July at Full Throttle Speed. Check them out at fullthrottlespeed.com. They're going to do a standalone advanced class up there. And we've already got one car lined up right now with 802 sensors. Should be a pretty killer setup, pretty interesting per cylinder tuning on that guy. Otherwise, I think we'll talk about our first guest tonight. So we just kind of wanted to take it easy today because we had busy weeks, and last week was obviously a lot of planning and a lot of work to get Justin all lined up and make sure everything was going to work right. But I had asked my buddy AJ Taylor to come on here a couple months ago, and something screwed up. We didn't have a show one night or whatever. I was getting chased down or whatever. And so we did not get to talk to AJ from True Street Productions. But if you are, doing any kind of racing in the street racing in the Midwest here, Kansas area, really, in Missouri, Wichita, I've seen these guys at KID. I've seen these guys at the Arc City track. I've seen them in Kansas City. But AJ and his buddies take really good photos, do videos. He's done shit. I saw him, dude. You had Larry Larson on a live feed the other day, and was that from the NHRA event? AJ, where was that at?
That was from NHRA in Topeka, and I got to tell you, that was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done.
Interviewing Larson was difficult?
It was so difficult to get him on because right before he ran his first pass, he's like, okay, yeah, we'll do it right after my first pass, but what do you know his first pass burst panel going down the track? So then I waited like a few hours, and I went back. I was like, yo, you want to do this again? It's like, yeah, let me do this pass, right? Screws up the truck even more.
Right, I saw that.
And then finally, I went there another 2 hours later. I was like, hey, are you going to do this? He's like, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make this quick and short and go from there. And
yeah,
that was probably one of the only times I've been starstruck, I guess is what I'd say, with someone I've interviewed. I mean, heck,
Larson's like a legend around here now at this point in time. But no, that's funny. The cool thing about Larry, though, is he was cool. The video looked like he was. I mean, Larry has. I've worked with him, and he doesn't get hyped up about anything too much, and he doesn't get too down or negative about anything. You can tell when things aren't going good, and you have let him down or whatever a little bit. It's kind of like letting Grandpa down or something. You just feel bad without actually being yelled at or him acting like he doesn't have like a dick, and he doesn't. Nice guy. Just, I know what you mean, though. You're like, oh, so that was a rough interview because he was not having a good day. He was trying to reset the streetcar record. Now he's got to fix some parts on the truck. I saw him piston. I saw his post. That sucked. Yeah,
but I mean, it's probably the coolest thing I'll ever take back from that day at Larson's pit is that Cadillac. Oh, my God.
Oh, you like that thing, huh? A neat build.
That is one of the most beautiful cars I've ever seen. And it's gonna, right now, if you ask me right now, in the no prep world, there's 2 cars taking over. You got Dwayne Mills and Kong, and you have Larry Larson's coming for it.
Right.
Too.
You think those 2 are going to be the ones to beat, huh? That's interesting. I see them. I see Robin Roberts stepping it up pretty hardcore. I see Ryan Martin. Just doesn't look like that guy's program is getting any less awesome. The no prep Kings thing, dude, is tough competition now. And then obviously Mills is huge. You're right. They kind of got everyone's attention, I think, right off the bat, just goofing around, started doing really well. I like Dwayne and the whole family too. They're really cool people. I don't know if you've ever met them or not. I met them a few years ago, but yeah. So I don't know what else is going on. You got your Facebook page, it's True Street Productions. Real simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. We just recently hit 4,000, which is crazy to think about. And we're almost at 2 years of doing this. 2 years will be on June 15th.
Right. And I mean, in the photography world and videos and stuff, that's a tough number to hit. I mean, so you're starting to stand out from the rest for sure in the area. That's pretty cool. So I like your photographs, man. A ton of your photos that you take of customers I've tuned. I always right click, save as the ones that you guys take. Like all the Carl Scott photos, the honey badger pictures. I worked on the honey badger. And I mean, he's like, God, you got just some great pictures of that thing. For somebody your age, you take good pictures. And so, that's how I know you guys is from the photography and then seeing you guys at the events and stuff like that, which is cool. And literally, I know like all the participants at the tracks, that helps keep the track alive when somebody's up posting up photos of their stuff that they don't have to pay for. That's super cool, I think. But when the amateur photography is actually really high quality like that, it's good.
My photos were not that good at first, and I talked with Scott Woody in 1320 at Coffeyville a year ago, and I was still on a kit lens and all that, and he just improved my game a whole bunch. And then I went to Armageddon last year, and Louis Renova from 405 Photo let me use his 7200 millimeter lens.
Right.
And in about 5 months later, I bought myself a 200 millimeter lens.
Right. Took out a fucking loan or decided not to go to college. You start spending money on equipment, dude. It's worse than cars.
Oh,
yeah. No, that's cool though. Well, you do a good job. Your images turn out good. So everybody check out AJ's work there at True Street Productions. I'm trying to think of what else we got going on here. You guys got any other events here? What's your next big thing coming up?
Well, see, I've got 2 events I want to go to this weekend. I've had this controversy for a while now. I want to go to the Sayer race down in Oklahoma. I'm hearing that thing is going to be huge.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a cheap person, so here's what I'm thinking here. I'm going to go to KID and go to their Heads Up race this weekend.
Right.
And then next weekend, Mid-America Dragway is going to have their first ever no prep, which if you know MAD, they're not known for no preps. They're known for bracket racing.
Right. That's the Arc City, right?
That's Arc City, yeah. And
yeah. Oh, that kick ass now. They fixed that all up nice.
Oh, man.
Like that place.
I went to the private testing, what was it, 2 nights ago or so. And I've never seen cars fly. Like, there's some cars that could never get down the track, and they were getting down the track there. I call that like Tulsa prep, if anything, at a small track.
Right.
It's such a good place to race, and Chris and the crew, Clayton, all of them, they do a great job down there.
Well, I know that, like, as a spectator, he had fixed a bunch of stuff up, so the facility's real nice again. And I know all the drivers were saying that the track was all fixed up. Everything was nice about the track. They were loving on it. So the guy put a lot of money into that place, it seems like, on the off season, and it's paying off. Everybody likes it.
It is, but yet the weather did not like some of the track. And with everything, I mean, we've been having all this rain and stupid stuff.
Oh, yeah, the been shitty this spring. Yeah.
And I mean, Danny's event, LSX versus the World, sadly had to get postponed and rescheduled, which I'm still going to go to that. That's definitely been on the list for a while.
Yeah. Did you not go there last year?
I did. I did.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Danny's a great guy. He's helped me out.
We live in a good part of the country here as far as those events go. There's always some really good events to hit every couple weekends. But anywho, so cool. Well, that's what you got coming up. Well, AJ, thanks, man. Appreciate it. What you got? Anything else you want to talk about before we slide on to our next topic? See, Mr. We got all kinds of depressing crap to talk about next.
Let's see here. We're bringing back the shows. That's basically all I got for you there.
Nice. All right. You got to talk to me offline, man. I'm gonna help you out with some of that stuff. Maybe get your audio lined out. I think you're getting there. Yeah, but hit me up offline. But feel free to hang out too. You can listen in. We're just gonna put you on mute, but feel free to hang out and bullshit. I'm here for the next hour or so.
Sounds good.
Thanks, AJ from True Steed Productions. Very cool. Okay. Next, we need to talk about. Should we take some questions from listeners, or should we go straight into Greg Schmidt's world?
I think we'll go to Greg. I think we let him build up their questions.
You heard what happened to Greg, right? Oh, man.
Yeah,
worst luck.
I'm here. So
yeah, tell us the story, man. After all the
don't leave out any details.
Yeah,
don't leave out any details. Well,
so we get us sued.
So no, I unfortunately we debuted our car back on was it like middle of May? We went out and made some passes, and unfortunately on May 25th we were making some passes, trying to finish up some licensing for quarter mile, and I rolled the car at what we estimate when it lost control was about 180 to 185 mile an hour. And we were in the right lane, and I've got people out there who watched videos, and they just want to sit there and they say this and that and everything, but until you've been in a wreck like that, it's hard to tell what happened. I mean, we're looking at parts that did this part break because of a wreck, or did or
did it break first or something? Yeah.
But yeah, so we were in the right lane. There's a little bit out of the groove, and ended up tapping the wall. But that wasn't the worst of it. So it tapped the wall and then shot over. We were in the right lane, like I said, shot over to the left side and spun around. And as it spun around, it started to lift up. And about that point, I kind of went, this fucker's going over. So I let go and kind of went along for the ride. It went upside down, and by the time it hit the roof, they said I was about 150, 140 mile an hour, and then I slid for about 400 feet on my roof, spinning down the track. It's been quite an experience, and it's been like 2-3 weeks now. I can kind of talk about it and everything, and that's kind of what I wanted to come on here and tell everybody about is, a lot of times when you see a wreck and everything like that, there's a lot more behind that accident, that car, than what people think.
Easy to be playing peanut gallery, but yeah, I mean, I've no idea till you see. I mean, I assume you've got some data of something of the stuff going on there. I'm guessing that you definitely know about safety equipment. You might have learned some new things or confirmed that the stuff you had preached mere weeks before that. To me, I hate to say it, but man, it's cool to see the safety equipment work because you were up and out of it fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, for a wreck like that, hitting the wall, we bent up the frame in the front of the car pretty good. I was able to, at 180, 185 mile an hour, flipping around and like that, I walked away unscathed. I had no problems to my body. Only thing was I went to the chiropractor a couple of times and got my back straightened out.
Right.
But like in the car, this is what I preach to people: make sure you have your safety equipment. If it says to wear your fire suit and have a roll cage in there, yes, having a Turbo Fox body that goes 8s is super cool, and like there's a lot to learn there, but also make sure you're safe doing that, because I mean, if something does happen, you're able to walk away. We had a fire suppression system that went off that we pulled. We had everything there. I was stopped upside down, and when I lifted my seatbelts to get me out, I actually flopped over like a taco to get out of there. I mean, so they were holding you in tight. So, it's a thing there. But like, oh, go ahead.
I said, as they should, as tight as you can get them.
Oh man, it's tight. Hans devices, all of that, you're able to walk away from a wreck like this. But then there's, the side of, there's the mental stuff that a lot of people don't really think about, is like, for a week, I was getting maybe 2 hours of sleep because when I'd close my eyes, I'd see the wreck all over again. You see the stuff of, you're in your car and it's your safe zone. You're looking forward, ready to shoot down the track, that you feel safe as hell.
And all of a sudden, things are
upside
down and sideways.
You in your mind, over and over, after something like that, you see the asphalt rocks going on your lid, in front of you. You see all of that stuff, and you hear the this tin from your steel roof that's inches from your head. You hear that being ripped away. Like, that's the stuff that a lot of people don't understand about, and that I think that I wanted to talk to people about and go, hey,
whole new lessons now, dude. Yeah,
it's a whole new way of looking at stuff. But at the same time, when you're sitting in that car and you go, hey, I'm safe, everything is good in here, like, you are. Like, as long as you have all of your safety equipment, you should be able to walk away from that wreck. I wanted to, at least get on here and share my experience with some of the people who may be building a new car or something like that, going, man, I don't know if I can afford this. Then don't take it out yet. If you can't afford to get the right suit and the right, safety equipment, wait. Get that stuff. Make sure you're safe. A race car you can replace. It's hard to replace a life. So
you're glad, I guess, that everything worked well.
I am super happy that everything worked well. I am super bummed that I worked 12 months on a car and I lost everything in less than 12 seconds. But it's a risk we all take, that we're all racers, whether you got John or Scott or, any of the guys, AJ, all of you guys, we all build race cars. We all go out there to go fast because it's adrenaline rush, and it's a gamble. We all gamble on that, whether it's you're playing blackjack, you're playing this, it's a hand you take, and sometimes you get the short hand or the crap hand, where normally we hold the better side of those cards. But
if you race long enough, it's bound to happen too. So you got to just kind of dress for the wreck,
Yeah. I used it the other day. Look at Steve Jackson. He wrecked the original Shadow, and then I think it was like roughly about a year later, he ended up wrecking his Pro Mod at the 4-wides on there. It can happen. It's not like it's Steve's a bad guy or a bad driver or anything like that. Stuff happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That sucks. I saw some of the videos. Is Crystal your wife?
Crystal is my wife, yeah.
Yeah, I saw her video. I was like, oh, right from the, straight down the track view. It sucked.
Yeah.
Because you're like, yeah.
It was a crazy one. Her video, if anybody goes onto my page and sees it, you can see that. But it also, from the wife's point of view, is kind of different, because like all of a sudden she didn't turn her camera off. She started running down the track and running to the golf cart, and the video was still going. So it kind of gives that anxiety side of things that people may not think about, on there. So yeah, it's a terrible deal, but I'm here to be able to talk about it and maybe teach some other people. I'm not afraid to admit I had some depression. I'm over it now. Hey,
I need me some Zoloft. It's cool. We're back to normal.
Zoloft or whatever else I had to take. There's other stuff out there. So But yeah, no, definitely it's there. But since you guys were giving me a hard time about carburetors, those are gone. The asphalt ground those gone. So I think I might have to swap to EFI. Son of a biscuit.
About damn time.
That's all right. We're here to help. Man. No.
Get out of the 70s.
Problem. He's actually not that far from me anyway. He's like 5 hours away from me, 4 hours away, half a day's drive. So yeah, we'll come knock that out. So, well, that sucks, but it'll be back. I saw you bought another project car just for the hell of it, little street car you're going to have some fun with. So
yeah, I just got off the dyno with that tonight. I did we were on our chassis dyno. I did a 07 Mustang today. It had like cold air, basic stuff like that, basic EFI tune or whatever on that. And then I picked up a 04 GTO LS1 deal, and I had a couple of things I did built on that and had that on the dyno tonight. And then shot home here and got on the computer and logged in. So
nice.
Yeah. So we'll have some fun with that, but we'll be back. We'll have some fun. And if anybody out there,
doing some safety webinars with Greg. So
yes, we are. Scott and I have been talking. We're going to do some webinars on some safety stuff and some different deals like that. It'll be pretty fun. And if anybody out there that's listening, if you have any questions on safety equipment, what you should have, shouldn't have, anything like that, you're always free to, if you can't get a hold of me, get a hold of Scott and he can get in contact with me or whatever. But
for sure.
After something like that, I'm kind of a safety nut. And, even before that I was, but I'm a nut anyways, but it don't matter.
Cool. Oh, I see we got some questions popping up here. I just checked on Mixler.
Yeah, we got a few.
Hold on a second. Let me ask this one here. Mick James 427. So you guys said drag race questions. So here's one. Assume the car is tuned well, 3,000 RPM and under. Starts idles nice, tip in, does a burnout, gets up on the brake. How do you guys go about tuning at the track with respect to fuel and timing? Holley high flow solenoids. I have the wiring down pat. The tuning I'm kind of worried about. Tips. You could always get one of us to help. Oh, wait, no, shit. I just mixed the two together. Hold on a second. How do you guys go about tuning at the track with respect to fuel and timing? Also take into consideration not folding the rods over at peak torque. Finally, it's MC James, as in Mike C. James, not Mick James. Got it. Okay. So he is asking just some simple tuning stuff. You know what I do, man? I would not, if you got to do it at the track and you don't mind taking a couple other passes, I wouldn't make full passes. Just go wide open throttle for like 1,001 and let off. Get some data from that. See where it's going. Then your next hit, make sure the fuel's not going super weird after you've tipped in. It may have a little bit of a lean spot or a rich spot right after you tip in, maybe for a half second, but it should clean up and level out, and then maybe do it 2 seconds. I don't know. That's my advice for sneaking in, but use your data logs. Make sure that it's, not going lean and hurting the motor. As far as folding over the rods, just make sure or have someone help you know where to set the timing. Make sure it's validated or synced. And if you're not sure what that means, just give one of us a call and have one of us do a remote for you. But that's what I'm thinking. MC James, let me know.
I have basically the exact same advice, other than I tell people, if you can't read plugs, find somebody who can, because it can be a valuable tool to at least give you an idea of where you're at in timing, because you can tell if you're way too far or if you're plenty safe by looking at the plugs.
Next one up, Larry Norman. This is the one I screwed up and half read the last time because it literally it blipped in the same space. So this is kind of funny. What's up, fellas? Not sure what the topics are today. If you have time, I'm switching from single solenoid Holley boost controller to onboard air and the new dual Holley high flow solenoids. Have the wiring down pat. The tuning in kind of worried about. Tips: read the manual on how to adjust the PIDs and test them. And God, once again, if not, give one of us a message and dial in and for a small fee, fix it up for you. But really, just follow the instructions. Those guys actually wrote really good documentation on setting up the dual solenoids. Pretend like it's just the regular dual solenoids. The high flow solenoid thing, I don't think is necessary. I kind of think it's gimmick. But it's pretty easy to test. Pretty simple stuff. If you follow Holley's directions on the actual boost control with the dual solenoids.
Yep, you can use the real-time strip with the car hooked up and nothing more than your trans brake button as an activator for it or a switch, anything really. And you can literally, you just take it between a low value and a high value every couple of seconds and you just watch what it does and try to adjust the PID until it lines up.
Well, further talking about that, Larry, what he said, how you do what he's saying is set up your data log views so that you have your dome pressure and your target dome pressure on the same graph. Not clouded.
I'm talking about the real-time strip you can look at. There's a real-time strip that looks like, up at the top, there's icons, and one of them looks kind of like a heart monitor thing. If you look at that, you can set those up to be just like your data log setups, and you can look at your dome control. You can look at your dome pressure and your control boost.
Yep, and then your solenoids boost fill duty and boost vent duty and see if they're working. It should be logical. When it's over the target dome pressure, the vent should be active. And when it's under, the fill should be active. So it lets you know you got them hooked up the right direction.
And don't expect it to be absolutely dead zero, like perfect the whole time, because things are going to go up and down a little bit. It may
bounce around a pound. Yeah. That's fine. Cool. What else we got? Anybody watching Facebook?
I am. There was somebody who asked a good one earlier that I thought was worth addressing. Let me find it real quick. When is it smart to switch to an aftermarket ECU was the question. It was like you have a factory ECU and you make the decision that, hey, now is the time to switch. What is your thing that makes you say this is now the time to switch to somebody? For me, it comes down to two things. One, is there budget to switch? And two, are you doing something that requires more control than the factory ECU can do? If the factory ECU, your headers and cold air intake, factory ECU is probably fine. Never have an issue with that. If suddenly you're doing a turbo and now you're looking at, well, I have to do a 2-bar OS or a 3-bar OS, and now I have spark tables that need to be drastically different or larger range than what the stock ECU can do, then maybe that's something to consider. Yes, that's now the time to upgrade. Then you have to think about your budget. Is it something you can really afford? Is it something you need to save up for? I usually tell people it's worth saving up and upgrading when you actually need the features. If you're going to spend more on tuning than you would on an aftermarket ECU, maybe it's worth getting that aftermarket ECU.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with Scott. I would say the same thing.
I mean, you just have to kind of qualify it with your own wallet.
What else? Other questions? Am I missing anybody? Looking on Mixler here. I guess I'm not even watching YouTube. Of course, Fowler's not on tonight. Hold on. I'll go check YouTube. Maybe if I can find it.
Let's see. Anything here? I'm scrolling down Facebook.
There we go. Kenny Howard. I have a wideband O2 sensor question. When its bottom feeders get a shot, more precisely, suppose you have two sensors in a row, one 4 inches ahead of another in the downpipe, well before the back of the car. Would you expect to see a large disparity in the readings? Both sensors are the same, Bosch 4.9s, one hooked up to an AEM gauge, one hooked up to an AEMU black. Would I expect to see a difference? I would believe a difference because there's two separate controllers. So I don't know. I mean, if you want to know which one is right, then you got to go through the bullshit of putting them in span gases. So you have two different types of gas that read two different results. That's how you certify a sensor rig for OEM certifications. But you can rent span from your air gas place or lease them. Not that expensive, actually.
Yeah, you just got to cap off both ends and just let a little bit of hole for the pressure to escape, and then you can put them in there. And I mean, literally take a chunk of pipe about a foot long and put a bung in it and cap the other end with a small hole, and you feed it from the other side and let it fill up, and then you see what it does.
Somebody wants to talk street car record.
I was going to say, you can also online, somebody a while back, and I don't remember who did it, but there was somebody who did a test amongst a whole bunch of different things, and they did the span gas test on a whole bunch of them to show which ones were read more accurate more often. Like they had like 3 or 4 of each to test, and they had like a spanning of, this particular one we tested had 3 different values that we saw that were, 0.6 apart or 0.2 apart. So it's worth, if you can find, I wish I knew where it was again. I'd post it in a minute, because they had some good info about the controllers basically at that point, telling you which controllers were better quality because they had a tighter variance between multiple pieces. They were, the same.
More accurate. Yeah. Let's see here. else.
I see somebody
Yeah,
just
Kenny,
said,
try switching them back.
yep.
How do you know when the plug gets its timing mark? Is it at the 60 foot when it gets hot, or does it get hot 300 to 600 feet out? I'm going to respond first. Yeah, you don't know. That's the problem. You're seeing about
Yeah.
2,500 to 3,000 hits, and that's why I think reading plugs is bullshit, because it could be wandering all over the place. But anyway, probably when it's hottest, the hottest should be really towards the end of the run because of chamber temps and heat, because it's when it's had the most pounding. But you would say the instantaneous heat, it's the
your own experience, like literally speaks against what you just said.
Oh, here we go. He's going to yell at me. Go ahead.
Your own experience that you experienced on the dyno with the Gen 2 LT5, where you had a failure with your monitoring. And
that one was a LT1. It was a real hopped up LT1, and those guys read plugs, but they knew the gas and they knew the plugs. They had to use the right plugs.
Right. And they would bring it to 4 and chop it, read a plug.
Yep.
Bring it to 4,500, chop it, read a plug.
Yep.
Bring it to 5, chop it, and read a plug. Well, your own experience watching those guys do that day speaks to the answer to the man's question. That 99 times out of 10,
it's showing what's happening right when you cut it off.
Right before you shut the motor off. Because
are you telling me that if I have my mixture richer at the second half of a quarter mile pass and therefore cooler temperatures, that the plug will actually read cooler than it would have during the hottest part of the pass? And I believe the answer is yes.
The timing mark isn't going to move. It's how much heat goes into the plug that's going to change. So you won't be able to tell if you're too hot or too cold of a plug.
Yeah, you're not going to be. That's kind of my with it. Yeah, but the thing of it is you're talking about heat up the body of the threads, right? Because that's going to show. That's going to show you a lot of heat in the cylinder with temperatures, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
The
I'm down with that.
It's going to show on the ground strap itself. Then fueling is going to show, on the ceramic, on the electrode,
porcelain,
and the closer you get,
haven't learned how to do it, or I don't have luck trying to do it yet. But I will say this:
I would love to show it at a class sometime.
Yeah,
we need to do a webinar on plug reading.
This is my take on it. If you take a spark plug out of an engine and get a Peppo torch and start shooting it with a Peppo torch, what happens? It doesn't glow red instantly. It takes a little bit of time for that ground strap to start glowing red. I think the same thing happens on a full quarter mile or eighth mile, whatever, pass that you're doing. At the very end of that run is where that plug's going to be the hottest, because at the top end of the track's where the motor's under the highest load, the highest boost, where all the power's in, etc. First gear, you're not going to see any heat on a plug. The thing's revving through the thing. It's not loaded. Higher gear and time. It takes time to start putting heat in that chamber and that spark plug. So
correct, which is why we do multiple passes and shut it off at various points. It's why we don't just make a full pull and call it that number. It's why we make a 60 foot to see what the car wants to do when it leaves. Then we go out and we do a 330 to see how the car goes. About there, when if you're shifting into somewhere between the 330 and the 8th, and you're shifting into high gear, that's the first time you shut it off to see what it's doing with the plugs, because that's when you're starting to get enough heat into it. Once you're in high gear, you can just literally click it off at any RPM you're going, and keep clicking it off, and keep clicking it off, and keep looking at that plug, and it'll give you the right curve to follow going up the thing. If you keep that mark in the right spot over the whole course, you'll keep your car safe doing that. It might not be exactly ideal, because you're never going to get exactly ideal unless you're using a whole bunch of other equipment to measure exactly how much power you're making. But you'll be able to tell if you have way too much timing in it or if it's safe.
Short of putting it on a steady state, it's about as accurate as you're going to get.
I can usually get with plugs within a degree or two of where it wants to be on the dyno.
So, as far as plug reading goes, you guys will all appreciate this. I don't even think I've told you guys this story yet. I don't, unless you were one of the few people I sent pictures of Keith Dorton reading a set of spark plugs out of a motor that I tuned on his dyno for him. This was 2 weeks ago. tonight. That's why we didn't have the show 3 weeks ago. And that's a long story short. Joe Timney hooked me up with a gig working with these guys, and obviously that's the same Dorton family that has multiple NASCAR championships with Jeff Gordon or whatever. And I was lucky enough to get to go fly out to Charlotte a couple weeks ago and go to their shop and tune an engine for them on the dyno, naturally aspirated combo that they're built in for. It's kind of a specialized project, but it's a smaller cubic inch than your typical NASCAR motor, but big horsepower. I think naturally aspirated, approaching 800 horsepower stuff for 300 cubic inches. Pretty badass. But so, dude, he read plugs at the end when we were all done. And most of the time he was watching the Lambda and knew what timing the engine was going to want because he had swept timing previously. We were doing some individual cylinder tuning on it. I was working with his son, Jeff, but on their DTS dynos, which they like and very repeatable, interesting stuff to use. But they, at the end, Keith told me, I'm like, all right, well, this guy's a plug reader. And he admitted some things, like he says, it's if you change the plug type, then I have a real hard time reading it or knowing that it's real close to the edge. If you change the fuel type, forget it. He was basically trying to say for him, there was no just generic reading of plugs. Like he couldn't just take a Pro Mod plug out and read it without having thousands and thousands of passes or polls on it to kind of get familiar with what it should look like. So he was kind of admitting that. But what I thought was interesting is he took out, for the last poll, he took out his plugs that we were running, which were some NGKs, and put in these Bosch protruded tip surface gap plugs, even weirder than regular surface gap plugs that these guys run. Protruded tip surface gap plugs. We ran those on his dyno, and he read those, and he's like, "Hey, I know how to read this plug." Either these or he had some. Was it Champion brand had some special racing plugs? No. Someone else had some racing plugs that they were protruded tip surface gap plugs, but NASCAR guys. No, it wasn't Brisk. It was one of the major manufacturers. If it wasn't Champion, it was somebody else.
Autolite makes those.
Yeah, it might have been Autolite.
Bill. It's Bill.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, guys.
But anyway, so he was comfortable on the Bosch plugs, put the Bosch plugs in it, had me change the timing from all 8 cylinders. This incredibly well-developed NASCAR-esque motor needed a 6-degree spread in timing from the worst to the least, most advanced to the most retarded cylinders at peak power. And the plugs came out, and he said he showed me the set at the end, and they were all literally like identical. And he picked up like 7 horsepower, repeatable horsepower with timing changes at the end. So
there's even more proof that reading plugs works.
Yeah. Right. Nope. You're right. I have to give it to the guy, but it's fucking Keith Dorton. Come on, man. He's literally like one of the best naturally aspirated engine builders on the planet. So anyway, and I took a picture of him inspecting plugs, pulling them out of the motor after we were done. And I sent them to some of my naturally aspirated buddies like Jeff McConnell. I was like, check this out. And he's like, you've made it. I said, well, maybe. I said, he's not done looking at them. But
I just anyway, want to remind you that the first time I came on the show, which was like episode 7 or 8, right. I was answering plug reading questions on Mixlr, and you said, "Oh shit, we got to get this guy on." And right. And I was answering plug questions. So go back and listen to episode like 7 or 8 or something. I don't remember which exact number it was. It was way back at the beginning. We didn't sound near as good back then.
I think the biggest note to be taken out of plug reading is it's not the end all be all. I mean, correct. If you're used to doing that kind of thing, definitely. But, my mantra is use every piece of information that you can to dial your motor in. The spark plug reading is one of them. I mean, obviously look at them. You might learn something if you look at enough of them. And, take reference of your data logs, what boost level it's on, how much timing it's on. All those little variables are going to make you well-rounded on making an educated decision on what to do to the tune-up next. So,
an iPhone or an Android with a MagLight app is a really nice substitute for an otoscope because you can use it to shine the light right down inside the plug, and it magnifies so you can look very tightly down inside the plug so you get an idea what's happening with the fuel ring and some of those things, not just, where the timing mark is on the strap.
Mr. Dorton was doing that too. He was looking with an inspection, looking real close down around, not just at the strap, but he told me he said in a basic sense, this is cool. This is because I've done this. I was taught this before. He said, feel the edge of the ground strap and see how long it takes to start dulling the sharp edges. It's like you can make a mark in your fingernail with a brand new one out of the box. You can cut and make a pretty good cut. But they'll get dull after so many pulls or whatever. And he said he looks at something like that, but then he broke out the magnifying glass and light and the otoscope looking thing to get, to really dig in and look at it. Just like Bill was saying, sorry to interrupt, but
no. I mean, he's the man. The other thing that I'll mention is by taking some pictures with that method, which is a device almost everybody has now, you can get an idea. Okay, this ran really well. Here's what it was doing. Spark plugs are a wonderful way to diagnose when the motor suddenly goes off and you're trying to figure out what off means. Pulling some plugs is a real good way to narrow down which cylinder has a problem. This is like the old trick of sprinkling water on headers to find out which is the cold cylinder. There's some real basic analog methods for getting very quickly to something where you can solve problems. It's as basic as you're running lash and you've got one that's suddenly tight, and you run a straight edge across and you find out that, you two-looped a valve. I speak from personal experience on that one. So there are a lot of those analog things that are really good for diagnosing stuff when it goes from being an annoying pain in the ass to you got to rebuild an entire motor. So food for thought for people keeping track of such things.
So enough about plug rating. I thought that was interesting.
Welcome to the show, Bill.
Here. What's up? Yeah, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, I had another call run late.
It's all right.
Yeah. We moved a transmission from my car, known good, everything working perfectly, put it in a different car to get ready to go to Rocky Mountain Race Week. They took it for a test drive today, came back with high temps and black fluid. It's like, what happened?
Whose car is that going in? Are you putting the 4R70 in, or the, what do you call that? The AOD. Are you putting that in somebody else's car?
Yeah, it's going into Carl's Pro Street car with the Vortec 521.
And it hurt itself.
Yeah, I wasn't there to do a few things like set the linkage up, and I have concerns. So we're going to, this is funny. They're going to pull it out tonight, load everything on the truck and trailer, and come here to Phoenix tomorrow. We're going to hot foot down to Hughes in the morning with the tranny.
Fix the trans,
Fix the tranny and put it back in, or we'll have to put the backup C6 back in it, which means they're going to be going down the highway not so fast with the deep gears and no overdrive. But one or the other. But it's going to get there. Always the last minute thrash.
Right.
Anyway, so that's what's new in my world.
Very good. Oh, man. It's been a busy day. I'm sitting here taking questions and remotes. What else we got? Who else got questions? Ask away or we'll wrap it up. Be the shortest one ever.
Austin Ratley says, can we talk about 60-foot tuning a turbo car?
I was just going to say the same question.
Have at it, you guys. I'm going to step out and take a break, check the streams. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Well, are we talking about a car with slicks or a car with radials? Because it's very different.
He's got a 65, 66 Mustang. I think it's a leaf spring car still on a radial. 1,000 horsepower turbo LS.
Radials want to be hooked up as much as they can right away. And you want to give, primarily, we generally like to give it all the turbo it'll take as fast as it can get in there and control everything with timing, because you're going to have way more control over timing than you will over turbo. Making the 60-foot happen is just a matter of finding out how much you can put into it, and a lot of that depends on the suspension, the shocks, how much of a weight transfer you're getting, what the weight of the car is. There's a lot of factors involved in it. And it's not just any one thing that makes a difference. Every bit of it makes a difference. Even the weight distribution left to right in the rear end can make a difference on if it's too much, it'll make a huge difference on some cars. So there's a lot of things to look at to get the 60-foot right.
If that's got a Calvert leaf deal in it,
He says it's a 4-link car now.
Okay.
The best thing to do is, the best thing you can do is first start off with something that's got the weights right. The closer you are to like 56, 57% on the nose, the better off you're going to be. A basic, once you find a basic starting point, it's just a little bit of shock, and then, figuring out how fast to pour the power on. And, with the PTC converter, the big thing about PTC converters that I find is tuning for the coupling point. Because a PTC converter, it gets to a certain point, it'll kick the motor in the teeth and pull it down a couple of hundred RPM. And what you need to find out is how your car likes to get to that point, because and finding and getting that coupling point at the correct spot. Most of the time, the bigger run that you can take at the coupling point with a PTC converter, the higher you can flash it and drive through that coupling point without it nosing the RPM of the motor over. And I'm pretty sure you got a PTC converter in that car. So, that's my biggest thing is you just get a basic tune-up on getting the car to hook up, get the weights right, get something that'll go 130 flat, and then you start working on shocks and power. And then, bringing the power in to make the converter act like you want it to work. Because like I said, with a PTC, 9 times out of 10, you can't overpower a PTC 9.5-inch billet. It will, you'll know when everything's right, because when you can, because I guarantee you're going to see this on your data log. You will see the coupling point of the converter plain as day on your data log, because the RPM is going to come up. You'll have trans brake release. RPM is going to flatline just a second. RPM is going to shoot way up. It's going to nose over. It's going to lose about 100 to 200 RPM. It's going to flatline, and then it's going to take off again. And your job is to figure out how to get the most power into the converter at that coupling point and drive through that coupling point. Because when you can drive through a PTC converter and make your RPM graph, like, just the acceleration rate just nose over just a little bit. Don't even flatline it. You don't want the RPM to even flatline and stall, but you just want you'll see the acceleration rate nose over just a little bit, and then you'll see it take off again once the coupling procedure is done. So that's the big thing is, take that generic shock settings of what the radial tire will want based on weight. I can help you with that if you want me to, and get it to hook. Just get it to some point where it starts and then gets a little bit of attraction, and then you can start figuring out what the car likes to achieve the goals that you want it to achieve. And then once you can drive through that coupling point on the PTC converter, you'll get that car will 60 foot in the 110s. Mike, I don't know what converters you're using, but that doesn't work with the PTC.
Scott or John, on that note, is there a setup that you guys like for 108-inch wheelbase cars with 55, 56% on the nose in terms of the bar, kind of where the 4-link initial setting would be? I don't know if he's gotten past all that yet or not.
I can't really say. I'm not a chassis guy. That's the reason why I call Schneiders and Terrell up at 10 Soldiers and have them set bars and check weights and stuff and give me a basic setup. on the chassis to start with. And I have shock settings that I know that I want to use and want to start with based on weight percentages, so on and so forth. But yeah, that's out of my realm. And when it's outside of my realm, I call people that know more than me.
On a radial, it's going to end up somewhere around 110% anti-squat. It's probably going to be on 108 wheelbase. It's probably going to be somewhere out about 40, 42 inches, if I had to guess where that landed without plotting it on paper. And then probably about 8 or 9 inches high as a guess on that car, maybe. I'd have to plot it out to really be able to tell you an exact. Probably a good starting point, though, is right there. You may need a little longer, a little shorter. You have to see what the rear end does to be able to determine that. There's a lot of factors in that. If you put shock sensors on, you can tell right away what the rear end's doing. Then you can make some smart adjustments to it. Because the numbers that you measure aren't always exactly right. Because
side question about that. You were talking about suspension stuff. Can you elaborate on maybe some softwares or some other things that you can do for different suspensions and stuff, things, calculators and things like that you can get?
What is it? Performance Trends has the 4-link plot software.
Yep, that's my favorite one. It blows away everybody else's.
That one has the best math on suspension geometry with the 4-link and things. That one's the best one. I've used that one a few times, and
I use it all the time. It works phenomenal. There are suggestions in it that are more specific to a large drag slick than anything else, but if you just ignore their suggested point on them, it's designed more around a pro mod type car.
It's a big tire type chassis deal, but you can still take the math on it is still good.
The math works, and it's awesome. And if you know what you're looking for, it works for any car. It's just their built-in suggestion points are built around a large tire chassis car.
Yeah, Scott was able to take measurements of my Fox body with its triangulated 4-link while we had it on the dyno in Vegas and come up with some very helpful stuff, which led to an adjustment, which led to a very nice clean launch the last time I ran it after that.
Yeah. Radio cars typically like offhand, I wanted to say it was like $79 or something, or $80. It might have went up. Used to be somewhere around there. Performance Trends. Let me just look it up.
While he's looking it up, we'll talk about something else. Did you see this post from Larry Norman on Mixler? This is a Bewley question. I'm waiting on my 8596 from Forced Inductions. There was a post on Facebook dogging Jose's 91-100 in comparison to his 8596. Any of you guys have experience in what the 91-100 actually has over the 8596? I know John thinks the car in question has a restriction or mechanical issue. A bunch of guys dogging it on there. Thoughts?
I'm not going to answer the question. I'm not going to.
No comment. Tired of arguing that one.
I didn't hear it, but $100.
I mean, there's no point in continuing that.
I'll go with whatever Bewley thinks on it. So whatever he argued on that post.
I mean, the reality of it is I've seen too many gains to think that turbocharger is out of breath at 1200 to the tire. So.
Right.
I made 1300 with it, so.
Yep. On your dyno, which is like 1500 on the dyno jet.
Right. I was going to say if that's on dyno, that's legit.
It wasn't. Oh. It was on a main line. It was on the Haltech hub dyno.
It's 400 real horsepower. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
Right.
James, why does your voice sound like a potato?
Theirs is pretty close.
Actually, theirs doesn't read that far off. You're talking about that one at Haltech, right? Theirs doesn't read that far off from James's dyno, I don't think.
We've done some calculations on that one, and it's obviously still higher. It reads within about 2 or 3% of a dyno jet chassis dyno. So
that's not horrible.
Yeah.
I guess this comes down to the same thing about so much internet crap, which is people are posting based on stuff they read from people that posted about stuff they heard about from somebody else's car.
Oh, yeah.
And do not have direct experience with making a change on a competently set up car where you made that kind of isolatable change. And what did it do from this to this with everything else being sorted out? So absent that, none of those comments make any sense at all. So my point is I just ignore all that shit.
And just come straight to RealTuners to get all your questions answered.
I can't believe it. You can't tell me that a turbocharger that made 1,940 flywheel horsepower on CNC Motorsports Superflow,
right,
is done at 1,200 wheel on so-and-so's Mustang or whatever.
There's so many variables.
There's something else. There's something else there. And my problem with the whole scenario, now that you've got me going on it.
No, it's all right. Not a good test. But go ahead.
My problem with it is the dyno was done. There was no pre-intercooler pressure data gathered. There was no drive pressure data gathered. And the first thing that was jumped up and said was the turbocharger was junk. I'm sorry. You don't have enough data to make that claim. And, 95% of everybody that's used that unit has been able to exceed and go past where you saying this thing nosed over at. And I don't know. I don't understand why they can't get it to perform like it's supposed to. I don't know if there's something with that one particular unit that's not correct, not right, not clearance correctly. Maybe the wheel to housing clearance is off or something. I don't know. But it doesn't plot with the results from all the other units that are in the field for that. And that's basically all you can say with it.
Right on. We definitely need a resident chassis guy. We could use a couple more. I don't know. Scott and these guys handle it pretty good, but I'm looking at the Mixler comments. Okay, so what else?
Somebody just asked what resistor plug for an LS for an 8 or 9 heat range, and just look at the it's a BR8ES, I think is what its number is. It's actually it's the larger hex size. It's not the 5/8, it's the 13/16, I think, but it's the same reach, same everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful on that plug too, though, because sometimes you can't get it into the cylinder head. Depends on what head design it is. But if it's boosted stuff, I just use the Iridium plugs. Use the Iridium 8 or 9. I've got an Iridium 9 in mine right now just to try the resistor plugs out, and they're working fine on mine. So.
Don't run a resistor plug.
Well, he's losing his wideband because it's so much noise. You can run a resistor boot. That's the other option as well. You can NGK sells resistor boots.
That's what I always do when somebody gets into a heat range plug that's beyond what NGK makes. I go to their resistor boot and start running an R5671A-XX, whatever.
Let's see. What else we got?
SBE 351 Windsor and currently running a 74 millimeter PTAE GTS T4 turbo, 98% street car, 2% track car. Looking to run between 600 to 800 horsepower comfortably. Would you recommend a turbo change to get a better result? You don't say what cam you currently have, so I don't know if a cam swap will do you any good. If you're running a stock cam, yes, a cam change is required and suggested on that. I don't know how much a stock 351 Windsor, depending upon year, will take. I know some of the later Lightning motors could take a little bit of power, but I don't know what the situation is there with that particular engine. I'm not.
I got a buddy who put about 15 pounds into his, and it did not like it.
Yeah, most of them wouldn't like it. Most of the Ford motors wouldn't, besides some of the later mod motors with manly rods.
John Coleman just said NGK 5430, 8 heat range, washer seat. Order them from overseas like eBay.
Yeah, gotcha. I knew he would know that.
Thank you.
I was sitting here digging for that plug number for that stock.
Right. John's got
isn't the LS, though, the tapered seat, though?
The stock heads are tapered seat, but there's a flat where you can run a stock gasket, a gasket seat plug on an LS head without issue. It actually has both seats built into the head.
I would trust John. If you're talking, let us know, John, Mr. Coleman, if that's not, if you have further
like
input.
the trick flow heads are gasket seat, and it's just a bevel for the gasket seat stuff. But I mean, if a gasket seat plug didn't work on an LS, everybody with an R5671A that's put one in an LS up to this point would have had it. That's not a case, because the R5671 is a 3/4 inch reach gasket seat plug.
Cool. Well, what else we got? Anybody else? Everybody's kind of actually no. There's a ton of listeners still. You guys just being quiet tonight.
I just wanted to say,
I need to go back.
Eric Anderson on Mixler said, "Killed more valves than I have plugs."
Oh, did you read his saga? He's finally turning up the boost on his Miata, which is a pro solo event. The dude's got national championship level autocross type car. And I say that, but it's not just autocross, is it? I don't know. I'll have him correct me sometime. I'm probably fucking that all up. But
I just think it's funny. He's saying he's killed a bunch of valves more than he's killed his plugs.
Right? No, because he had a problem. He went to boost hurt things. It sounds like. But
Keith, I don't know the Lenati cam line. I don't know the Lenati shelf cam line, so that number doesn't really mean much to me. If you want to send me an email with the durations at 50, the lift, slope separation, the intake center line, that way I can just look at it like a generic cam, that would be awesome. And I would be glad to provide you an answer to your question offline outside of the comments here, if you can send that over to me.
Cool. Oh, Bobby Randolph, you're welcome, man. Got to work in a pretty cool car today with Raleigh Prince. Yeah, you're welcome. So, I don't know, anybody else before I make Mr. Evans wrap it up? I got 2 remotes yet to do today. Anyone? Bueller, going once, going twice. Checking Mixler. I need to check. Sounds like all the questions have been answered. Gentlemen, free to go. Anybody got any news for next week? We'll be back online. We tried to get Kai Kelly to come on here, but he had a big race yesterday and he was driving home tonight, I think is what Greg said. But Greg's a friend of his, and so was Mr. Evans. So we thought we might get Kai Kelly on to see if we can see what he thinks, see what his thoughts are getting a car to go down the track. But sure as hell enjoyed having Justin Shearer.
Put barely enough power into it to beat everybody else.
Just right amount of power. Yeah. Did I see all the questions you posted? No. I did. I think that's sorry, Eric. We'll have to take him offline because that's some tough questions, man. He has smart questions. No. All right. That's all I got. Let's see. The next big class coming up is in the second weekend of July at Full Throttle Speed in Detroit. Sign up. There's still some seats left. We will see you guys there. Otherwise, until then, next week. We'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Have at it, Mr. Evans.
All right. Hasta la bye-bye. Do you want to learn how to tune electronic fuel injection live in person with the guys from RealTuners? We have 2-day courses in dyno shops all across the country. You can register for these at RealTuners.com and click on RealTuners Live Classes. For more information or to make a reservation, go to RealTuners.com or message us on Facebook at RealTuners LLC. Now, about those classes. When are they, you might ask? July 13th and 14th, an advanced standalone tuning class covering various ECUs at full throttle speed in Detroit, Michigan. And of course, we will be trying to schedule more classes and more dates throughout the year, so keep checking back for more info. And remember, don't forget to have your host spayed or neutered.